Hello, how is everybody doing today? I hope you all had great starts to the week. Today we're going to continue our in-depth look at UVI's toy suite. The UVI toy suite comes with 3 different types of instrument: 8-bit synth, acoustic, and electric. We already had a look at the 8-bit synth in part 1. You can check that out by clicking on the link. And in this video, we're going to have a look at the acoustic instruments. Coming up later, we're going to have a look at a production that I put together using just the acoustic instruments. But before that, we're going to do a quick review where I go through the key points of using and making music with the acoustic instruments. UVI have set up an entirely different interface for these acoustic instruments. The 8-bit synth instruments that we looked at last time, they based it very much on an old arcade machine with Space Invaders and a joystick for volume control. And now they've gone for this much kind of, almost like an old storybook or an old recipe book or something like that. It's like an old book of fairy tales or something that they've gone for. At first glance, the interface isn't as immediately intuitive. Once you get used to how to use it, it's actually relatively simple. You've got simple controls where you switch on off, and then you have numeric controls where using the mouse, you can drag the value. You can also double click and enter using the keypad. The fundamental controls themselves are going to be very familiar to anyone who has used UVI's virtual instruments before. The core controls in terms of the amp, filter, pitch, and tone are all very typical of how the virtual instruments work. One of the areas where the acoustic toy suite does differ from the 8-bit is it doesn't have a built-in ARP and it doesn't have the same modulation options either. An extra that you do get with the acoustic instruments is a lot of them come with mic options. They allow you to switch the mics on and off and also blend in the levels to create a sense of proximity or a particular tonal effect or reflection. That's very, very useful. It kind of puts you back in the room and allows you to shape things in a way that an engineer might be able to, at least to an extent. The effects are pretty much the same as you had on the 8-bit synth, the only exception being the impulse response option, where you get a choice of either tone effects, like here we have things like radio and megaphone, to real room effects, so you have different options for speakers, metal amp, small bass, vintage tube, and then you have some special effects as well. That's a nice addition. That's giving you some interesting flavors right there. The acoustic instruments are split into different types. So we have toy pianos, xylophones, children's bells, toy guitars, music boxes, baby drums, baby percussion. There's a real range of the wild and the wacky. The pianos are probably the most sort of standard kind of thing that you might expect. Some interesting tones. As you'd expect, they're all quite dinky. Dropping to guitars, toy Koto. You can go outside of their original octave range. All of a sudden, you're using the instruments in a way that they weren't necessarily designed for, and that gives you some really interesting flavor options. The baby drums give you a couple of different options. You can access the kit on the keyboard or pad, or you can find some loops and phrases in here. I like that a lot, having that option where you can just quickly drop in a beat. There's a fair range of some pretty crazy sorts of sounds in here. A lot of the sounds also have key switches. These red notes here are changing up the type of sound. So you can either operate them here or you could operate them with a MIDI control. Once again, as is the case with the 8-bit synth, there are some instruments of surprising tone and depth. There are, as you would expect, any number of wild and wacky noises. And there are some quiet little gems in here as well. This little pink guitar, really very nice. Once again, as they did with the 8-bit synth, with the acoustic instruments, UVI have curated a very unique, very eclectic, and very eccentric set of instruments that range from the completely wacky to the really very beautiful. I do enjoy the time they've taken to create a different looking interface. I like that they're giving you the different microphone options. You don't quite have some of the effects options that you had with the 8-bit synth. What you do have instead is you have a set of impulse response options, which again are giving you a whole other layer of creativity and allowing you to shape these sounds and get something completely different out of it. Once again, UVI have created a set of instruments that make you want to make music. And when you consider that the 8-bit synth and the acoustic instruments come together in the same virtual instrument, that gets really exciting. There's an awful lot to be found in this toy suite that is going to give you so much flavor variation for your productions. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed that part of the video, please like and subscribe. That was my quick review of the UVI toy suite, the acoustic instruments. Coming up, we're going to go through the production that I put together using just the acoustic instruments. I really hope you can stick around for that. But if you've got to go, good night and good noise. Stay safe and stay healthy. And for those of you that are going to stick around for the production, I'll talk to you in a moment. Hello and welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking around. I'm really looking forward to showing you what I did. I hope you're going to find it really useful. I hope you're going to learn some tricks. Let's get on with it, shall we? All right, let's start by finding ourselves some drums. Here we are on the toy suite, and we're going to go to the acoustic section, and we've got baby drums. Let's go into loops and phrases. Some little itty funky hip-hoppy stuff. That's kind of cool. It's kind of obnoxiously fast. Let's see if we can find a rhythm for it. It's a little bit slow. That's not far off. I like it. All right, let's throw a little bit of reverb onto these drums. Now, because we're using a loop, you'll see here that when we click, we don't go to the toy suite interface. So if we want to add a reverb, we have to go and do it in the workshop. Go to FX, reverb, simple reverb, Canyon percussion. We'll crank the mix all the way up to 100. Let's back off the high dampening. We'll start with the decay time on. So let's start by sorting the cutoff out. I don't really want to have the low, the kick, and the reverb because it's just going to muddy up the kick. Now let's deal with this decay time because it's kind of wacky like that. And we do a little bit of touch of, let's bring in some high dampening. All right, so let's back the mix right down to 0, and we'll start bringing the mix back in. Alrighty, let's have a quick before and after. This is the drums without the reverb. And this is with the reverb. Just giving them a little bit of body, just giving them a little bit of acoustic space. All right, we need to find ourselves a bass line, and that's going to be a little bit tricky in an acoustic set of instruments that are designed for children. A little tiny kiddywinks. But we'll go see what we can do. I reckon our best bet is going to be toy guitars. And I got a good feeling about the toy Koto. And by I've got a good feeling, what I mean is I just tried it out before I started recording. So let's load this up. Now, this is the range of the instrument, presumably. Not very bassy, but down here is a different matter. So let's have a little go at recording something. So I think first up, we'll have a go adding a little bit of drive. Nice, I like that. It's giving a little bit of texture. Next up, let's try dropping the bass into mono. See how that helps us. Again, great. Simple trick. It just centers it in the mix. We've got the drums around it. Let's go into toy piano and keys. A lot of different toy pianos here. Advanced piano. I think that might be too advanced for me, actually. Way too advanced. The rusty piano. This one caught my eye mainly because... Let's go with that. I want to try something a little bit different with the Chinook piano. What I want to do is take that rusty piano and double track it with a Chinook. So let's go into our fourth channel here within the workstation. Double click on it. Here we go. Here's the rusty piano already queued up. So let's load that in. Now, to save time, I can just set it so it's been triggered by the exact same MIDI. And I can also set it so it's going to the same output. Then we can come back onto the mixer. Let's blend it out in 0. And all we're going to do is we're going to blend that rusty piano back in against the Chinook piano and see how it sounds. So I like it somewhere around there. I figure somewhere around 9.8, 10.5, something like that. Let's do a quick before and after. So here we are with just the Chinook. Bring in the rusty. It's just giving it like an interesting tone in there. It's just an interesting kind of texture and something in there. There's a sustain that's really nice. I like the two of those pianos together. Let's have what's this about? You know, maybe not. Maybe a bit of this. Then I thought funny horns. That was kind of fun. Old car horn. So you've got bike horn too, which up here sounds a little bit like this. But maybe down here. I think there's something we can do with that. All right, let's take a little look at the effects panel and what that's doing for our bike horn. So we've got the spark verb is already queued up. Let's kick that up to 100%. So let's see what happens when we really crank the decay. It's kind of cool, but we're kind of losing any sense of punch. So we're going to back that off. So let's see how we do with that. Now let's set up the reverb size and see what happens. I'm figuring maybe pull a little bit of that low decay out, give a little bit more room to the bass. That sounds pretty good. Let's blend the mix back in from 0. Let's have a go with this tremolo. Quite liking that stereo movement. That's kind of fun. Let's see if we can kind of tidy it up a little bit. All right, let's have a quick before and after. So we'll start off with just the dry bike horn. The spark plug. And the tremolo. So it's giving us a little bit of depth, that spark verb, and a little bit of movement with the tremolo. So it took a bit of time to find something else that would work. I've gone for a recorder. So let's have a little bit of a record and see what we can do with it. I've queued up one last instrument. We're going to go for the blue Glockenspiel. This sounds a little bit like this. But I think we might go a little bit Taxi Driver on this one. Because nothing says cute baby toys like Robert De Niro losing his nut over Jodie Foster. So we got our Taxi Driver Glockenspiel. Let's just come in and play with the color a little bit, so we just affect the timbre of it. Let's give it a little bit more depth there. Add a little bit of drive. Got to be a little careful because we don't want it to really ping up, but a little bit of saturation will just help sit that Glockenspiel in the mix a little more easily. Giving it a little bit of flavor. It's also giving it a little bit of sustain in there, but it's kind of softening it up a little bit. Right, this bike horn's kind of doing my nut in, so let's see if we can add some flavor to it. Talkbox. Let's go talkboxing. Okay, so let's switch out the valve mode. Cool. Let's back off the resonance touch. Have a quick play frequency. It's not too far off where it is though. So this is without it. This is with it. It's giving it a little bit of lo-fi. It's giving it a little bit of flavor. It's probably still not quite there yet. I might have a quick EQing, but that's pretty good. All right, let's just do a little bit of EQing on that horn as well. So I want to pull out a little bit of low, and I think I'm going to probably lift this up a little bit as well. I think we might need to pull out some 350 from that. Yeah, let's just settle it down a touch. All right, let's have a quick run through of what we've done. So we'll start off with just the drums, and then we'll add in the instruments one by one. So we started with our hip-hop drums. Then we needed some kind of bass, so we used the toy Koto, and we dropped it down a couple of octaves to get what we wanted. Then we put in the Chinook piano. We tried something a little bit different with this. We decided to double it up with the Rusty piano. Give it a nice sustain and combined flavor there, like that. Then we brought in the bike horn. This was a little bit more problematic. I think we're just about getting away with it there at the back, like that. Not sure about that one. Then the red recorder. I think he's playing off the Koto quite nicely. It's a little pseudo-Japanese. And finally we did our taxi driver Glockenspiel. If you enjoyed that video, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. That was part 2 of our in-depth look at UVI's toy suite, and in this part we were looking at the acoustic instruments. If you haven't already, you can check out part 1 where we take a look at the 8-bit synth. Next up, we'll be looking at the electric instruments in part 3. But until then, good night and good noise, stay safe and stay healthy.